my channel. So today's video is going to be all about hermit crab care. One of the biggest misconceptions that I find when it comes to hermit crabs being sold in pet stores and hermit crab care is the idea that they're great for kids and that they're really easy to take care of. While that's partially true, they are pretty easy to take care of once you've done your research and you know how to take care of them. A lot of people think that you can just put them in a tank with sand and they're good to go, but they require daily mistings and so much more, and I'm going to cover all of that in this video. So I'm going to break this down into 5 levels of care for you guys to kind of explain to you how to take care of them, what goes into having them, as if we were building a tank together, and then I'm going to go over each step one at a time. So the first and most obvious thing that you will need for your hermit crabs is a tank. So a hermit crab tank is known as a crabitat. So there are a lot of factors that go into what type and size of tank you want to get for your hermit crabs. There are lots of factors, and it's going to depend on basically how many crabs you're getting or that you already have, how big those crabs are, and also what types of crabs you're getting. Now, while there are multiple types of crabs you can get to keep as a pet, like fiddler crabs and also the hermit crabs, this video is going to be just about hermit crabs. So there are a lot of factors that go into deciding what size tank you're going to get for your hermit crabs. Hermit crabs vary greatly in size depending on how old they are and how many molts they've been through. When deciding what size tank you should get, you have to look at the size of the hermit crabs that you're going to be putting in there. This is a good example of how small a hermit crab can be whenever you very first get them from the store or wherever you get your hermit crab from. This shell that Gunner was in is about 1 inch in diameter. So if you were to get a hermit crab this size, and say you got 2 or 3 and they were all approximately this size, maybe even a tiny bit bigger, then you could probably get a 10-gallon aquarium and that would be just fine for them. When I very first got him, as well as my other 2 hermit crabs, I had them all 3 in a 10-gallon and they all did really well together. However, you can also find hermit crabs in stores that are a lot bigger. So you're gonna have to look at the shell size and your hermit crab size to determine what size tank you think would be best for your hermit crab. Here is a much larger shell than the one that Gunner came in. If you were to get a hermit crab that was this size, I would highly suggest that you move up to a 20-gallon if you have more than one. Now obviously if you only have one crab that's this big, you probably could get away with a 10-gallon, but any more than one of these, I would definitely upgrade to a 20-gallon. 20-gallon tanks are a great size aquarium. That's what I currently have for my hermit crabs. I find that they're doing wonderful in it. They have plenty of room to where they can each go to their own side of the tank and they don't bother each other. Now something that I really want to mention when it comes to getting hermit crabs, especially in varying sizes, whenever you have a tank that has multiple different sized hermit crabs, you run the risk of them fighting, and the bigger crabs can sometimes pick on the smaller crabs and can even kill them. I've never had any issues with any of my hermit crabs fighting, but again, it is possible if you have one that's too big and one that is too small. So again, if you have a hermit crab that's 3 inches or bigger, I would definitely move up to a 20-gallon, and if you have 1 or 2 or 3 that is very, very small, I would keep them in a 10-gallon. Hermit crabs can live a very, very long time, and they obviously will grow throughout their life as they molt and shed their exoskeleton. So the bigger they get, the bigger size tank you're going to have to get to accommodate them. Also, another thing to mention when getting your tank is make sure that you get a proper hood light. Those work just fine with keeping light on your hermit crabs so that they stay warm, especially during the winter months whenever it can get colder. You want to make sure that your hermit crabs never get too cold because they cannot make their own body heat, so you need to keep them warm. Now, as far as degrees in the tank, I will leave links below that give details all about that. I'm not going to go into too much depth on the degrees and the humidity levels. You do obviously need to keep it warm and humid in the tank, and I'm going to leave some links below that will help you out with that. So the next thing we're going to talk about is substrate levels. Now, I find that this is the hardest thing to talk about when it comes to hermit crabs because it's so scrutinized, and a lot of people like to pick fights when it comes to this, and it can kind of be a controversial subject. So I'm just going to tell you what I do. If you do not agree, again, please make your own judgments. Look at your hermit crabs. It really depends on how big they are. Read the links below. Go to reputable websites and make your own decision. For me personally, a good rule of thumb is looking at the size of your hermit crab. If you have a hermit crab that is about 1 inch in diameter, like Gunner was when I got him, you obviously don't need 8 to 12 inches of substrate. However, if you have a huge hermit crab that is 3 or 4 inches long, you're going to want to make sure that you can accommodate for that. It is recommended that no less than 6 inches be used regardless of the size of your hermit crab, and that is a great rule of thumb to follow. Or they also say 3 times the size of your hermit crab shell. So if you have a hermit crab that is 3 inches, they would suggest 9 inches of substrate. So the great thing about having my hermit crabs in a really long 20-gallon aquarium is that I like to make 1 inch of my aquarium about 6 inches, and then I like to get it to go down from there, and then I put their food and water bowl dishes at the shallow end. I find that when I have the whole tank at one level, they like to kick up a lot of their substrate and it contaminates their food and water. So if you notice, I'm going to show you my tank. I keep my tank at a slant downward, so I keep it about 5 or 6 inches at the deep end and then it goes down from there. This is just what works best for me. Obviously, if you have a 10-gallon, I wouldn't suggest this method because there won't be enough deep end for them to dig and bury in. Also, you want to make sure that your substrate level is appropriate to hold moisture. A really shallow substrate will probably dry out really fast. They won't be able to dig and molt, and it's very important for hermit crabs to be able to molt in their substrate. So make sure that you do your research, read the links below, watch other YouTube videos, and make an educated guess about how deep your substrate should be. But just remember, 6 inches is a really good rule of thumb if you're not sure. Now, there are many different types of substrates that you can use to put in your hermit crab tank. There are better ones, and then there are ones that people don't really suggest using or people used to use, and they've kind of found that maybe they can be harmful to the hermit crabs, like sand. Now, my favorite substrate is cocoa core or coconut fiber, also known as eco earth. I use that for my hermit crabs and I find that it holds moisture great. They can burrow in it, it's soft so it's not like scratching them or anything, and it doesn't get stuck in their shells. A lot of people tend to use sand, or they may mix like eco earth with sand and do like a half and half mixture in their tank. Some people have found that the sand is hardening inside of their hermit crab shells and then actually killing the hermit crab. So I personally don't have sand in my tank. I haven't used sand in probably about the last year. Again, I'm going to leave lots of resources down below so you guys can do your own research and make your own decision for your substrate levels and things. The next thing we're going to talk about is decor in shells. Decorating a hermit crab tank can be so fun, and you just want to make sure that you are enriching their environment and making it as natural as possible so that they can thrive in their crab-habitat. My hermit crabs love the fake trees and logs and things that I put in their tank. Whenever they get a clean tank, they love to explore and see what's changed and what's new, and it's very fun to watch. You can put netting, you can put trees, fake plants, logs, and all types of things. They really enjoy climbing and digging and things, so make sure that you're enriching their environment so that they can have a fulfilled life. Another thing that's important to have is plenty of shells. As hermit crabs grow, they move into bigger shells, so it's very important to make sure that you have a very wide variety of shells for them to choose from in case they want to change over. Usually don't see them do this. They like to kind of do it secretly, so you may go to bed, wake up the next morning, and your hermit crab is in a new shell. It's very interesting. Hermit crabs can be very picky when it comes to shells. I find that this shell is about perfect. Maybe not in size. My hermit crabs aren't quite big enough to move into this, but they do love the short butt, very smooth, and a very wide opening. Picking your shells for your hermit crabs is very important, so make sure you do your research and then put the time and effort into picking them properly. The next thing I want to touch on briefly is food and water. Now, I already did an entire hermit crab diet video, which I'm going to link below. If you haven't seen that, please go check it out. Your hermit crab's diet is very important. You want to make sure that they're getting plenty of variety. Variety is the spice of life when it comes to hermit crabs. It's very important to make sure that they're getting plenty of options because hermit crabs can tend to be picky eaters. You don't want to leave their food in there more than 24 to 48 hours because it can mold, especially raw fruits and vegetables. But a good rule of thumb for diet is 3 things to choose from. It can be raw fruits and veggies, dried fruits and veggies, some sort of a shrimp meal or something, and of course their pellet variety diet. Also, they need to have salt water as well as fresh water. Again, I'm going to go into so much more detail in my diet video below, as well as I will also link resources for safe food and unsafe food lists for hermit crabs as well. And the last thing we're going to talk about is research. Obviously, anytime you get a new pet, you want to make sure that you're prepared. It's so important to watch videos, read the links below, go online, do your own research, and make sure that you know everything there is to know. I would not depend on the pet store helping you when it comes to this. I find that the majority of the information that they give you is false or maybe an educated guess, but it's generally not very accurate. If you've ever noticed when you go into a pet store and you see the hermit crab tank, the substrate level is usually about a ½ inch to 1 inch. It's pitiful. The hermit crabs can't bury in it. It's usually a rock or sand. It's just a terrible situation, especially the hermit crabs that you see in Florida. Just do your own research. Go to reputable sites, look at YouTube videos, just make your own judgments, but obviously, I just wouldn't depend on a pet store worker to tell you the most accurate information when it comes to hermit crab care. Okay guys, that is it for this video. I hope that this video was really helpful to you. Be sure to check all of the links below and my hermit crab diet video. I will see you guys next time. Be kind. Bye.